What's up, everybody? Welcome into this Friday edition of the Pack a Day podcast here on YouTube. Hope you all enjoyed your Thanksgiving pizza, as I know I did. Hope Thanksgiving treated you well, and hopefully most of you have off on this Friday. If you don't, I hope you're enjoying this podcast, listening during work, and I hope you can enjoy the rest of your weekend. But a couple main topics that I want to get to today. First of all, there were a couple news and notes that came out of 1265 Lambeau, even on Thanksgiving. I think the first is a little bit disappointing in the fact that it sounds like Montravius Adams suffered another injury to his already injured toe that he suffered way back in training camp, actually. And now it looks like he's going to be out for the year. Matt LaFleur, noted in his press conference that it sounds like, they're probably going to shut him down likely for the remainder of this year. So disappointing and really potentially ends Montravius Adams' career in Green Bay. We'll see. I don't want to jump to any conclusions too quickly, but Adams was a former third-round draft pick and never really lived up to expectations. What's really interesting is he seemed to be playing his best football this season, but he couldn't get on the field. And I think at some point it came down to a level of trust between the Packers coaching staff and Montravius Adams. And what you would see out of Adams is exactly what we saw this year. We saw some of those flash plays, some of him really getting into the backfield, using his, really in a way ridiculous agility for his size, showing off some of his strength and shooting gaps and getting into the backfield. Something that, to be fair, Green Bay has struggled with along the defensive line this year. However, you'll also see him just get completely washed out of plays at time. And I think because of that, Green Bay's coaching staff really lacked trust in putting him out on the field with any level of consistency. Personally, I would have liked to seen a little bit more Montravius Adams. Now, it's very within the realm of possibility that he was nursing this toe or foot injury all year and never really felt 100% and maybe couldn't give them more than 10, 15, maybe 20 snaps per game without risk of re-injuring it. I obviously don't know. I'm just kind of speculating here, but a player that I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of this year was on the last year of his deal. Again, former third-round pick, never really lived up to the hype, and you have to wonder if unfortunately that was Montravius Adams' last snap as a Packer. If it was, will go down as a very disappointing top 100 draft choice for Green Bay. Interestingly enough, I think you can make the argument that this is the exact scenario how Montravius Adams ends up back in Green Bay. He's had a disappointing career. He showed flashes this season, and then he ends up with an injury that cost him the rest of the season. You can absolutely see a scenario in which he signs back for a veteran minimum deal back in Green Bay. Remember, it's not just Green Bay that has limited cap space next year. It's almost every team. I mean, there's a chunk of teams, and the teams that do have cap space are going to go big game hunting because there's teams like New Orleans and others who are going to have to cut some very, very, very good football players and aren't going to be able to re-sign some of their own. Any team that does have cap is going to, like I said, go big game hunting and try to spend some big money on some premium players. What you could end up is players like Montravius Adams only having offers for the minimum. And if that's the case, Green Bay could get what is still I don't want to say necessarily a promising player, but a player who showed some serious flashes this year when he was out on the field, maybe back on a vet minimum, have the opportunity to prove himself in training camp and preseason. And if he does, then you bring him back next season with very little risk and potentially high reward. So I could see that happening, but I could also see a situation and scenario in which Green Bay says, you know what, we invested a third-round pick. You had 4 years to show us what you were capable of. You were never really able to do it. Even when you showed signs of it, you ended up with an injury that cost you the season. We're just going to move into a different direction. And if so, certainly wish Montravius Adams the best of luck. I hope that's not his last snap in Green Bay. I hope he comes back and becomes a Pro Bowl player. That'd be amazing, right? But it's tough to read the tea leaves at this point and figure out what's going to happen. But a disappointing end to Montravius Adams' season if it is in fact a season-ending injury to Montravius. Interestingly enough, I don't think this is a major injury for Green Bay. I think they're going to be able to really get by and suffice without him. However, Billy Winn could be a player that really potentially takes his spot in that rotation, and I think he could fill in just fine. He had the really big pass deflection. He had another really nice play last week, so a couple of really nice plays on tape and very minimal snaps. You can tell that Billy Winn is motivated. He's really, he's taking every snap very seriously. This is not a situation that he expected himself to be in again, to get back to the NFL. He's gotten his chance, and you can just tell he is grinding out there and trying to do everything he can to make an impact. I think if you need to give somebody 10, 12 snaps a game, he's going to give you everything he's got. He's a bigger, more physical player, more of a run-stopping player, which was basically what Montravius Adams was at this point. So I think you can, take Montravius out, put Billy Winn in, give him an opportunity for those 10 to 12 snaps, and I think the difference is minimal, if anything. And there's a chance Winn could even outplay him, based off of what we've seen in very limited snaps from Billy Winn so far this season. The other major big piece of news, I guess major's a vast overstatement here, but Packers brought in a few players for tryouts, and one of those players was Tavon Austin. And I think it's just a really interesting name. I had spoken about the fact that it's unacceptable, frankly, that when Tyler Ervin goes down, that on a 53-man roster and a 16-man practice squad, 69 players in total, that you don't have one viable player that you can put back as a kick returner, as a punt returner, or really as that gadget slot type player who can take some reverses, some jet motions, some orbits, and do that type of stuff. They just didn't have that player on the roster. They still don't have that player on the roster. So literally, I said, I forget if it was, I think it was on the Pack a Day podcast with Perry and Alex this week. I literally said, what's Tavon Austin up to? You got to be able to find a player that can do some similar things. It's worth noting here that the idea of Tavon Austin is way better than the player that is Tavon Austin. He has failed out of everywhere in his career. He has never lived up to the billing. He's fast, he's athletic, but he has not been a good football player through the course of his career. That being said, neither was really Tyler Ervin up until the point where he got into Green Bay. And if you can be a player that can be a punt returner, a kick returner, and a little bit of a gadget player here and there in that slot position for the offense, there's nobody else that can play that role in Green Bay right now. Yeah, you can give some jet sweeps and motions to MVS, EQ, Darius Shepard, so on and so forth. It's just not the same. Defenses don't care. They do it. They're going to dare you to do it. They don't care. There's no explosiveness there, and they don't mind if you do it. You hand it to Tavon Austin on a couple jet sweeps, the defense is going to have to be aware of it because, he has the speed to get around the edge and to make an impact. So I think it would be a smart signing if Green Bay went that way. And again, the Indianapolis Colts forced Green Bay to return the kick with Darius Shepard back there. They wanted him to return the football because they knew he wasn't going to get past the 25-yard line. Not only did he more often than not get to the 25-yard line, he had a massive fumble in the game. You take a shot at a player like Tavon Austin. Will they sign him? No idea. Absolutely no idea. My guess would be probably not, but I love the fact that they brought him in. I would love to see him on the roster, even if just on the practice squad. Call him up a couple times, see if he can do anything in the return game, especially if Tyler Ervin is out. He was limited in practice on Thursday. Again, we'll see what he can do going forward, but I think it's time to give somebody else a chance as that returner. If Tyler Ervin is out, Darius Shepard's not the answer, Malik Taylor's not the answer, and I think a signing like Tavon Austin could go a long way. I'm not saying it's the next Desmond Howard, but these are the type of players. Tyler Ervin last year, Howard Green when the Packers made that move in season during the Super Bowl year. Like these little players here and there, you don't know what they're going to end up becoming and maybe being a vital piece to your playoff run. I think Tavon Austin could give something to the Packers that they don't have right now. So we'll see if they sign him, but I can certainly say that I would be an advocate for it, even if everyone needs to pump the brakes a little bit and realize that Tavon Austin isn't quite as good as you probably think he is and is probably as excited as any of us would be if we saw that transaction come through. But I'm still all for it, and I think it's worth pulling the trigger and worth a shot. A couple other just injury notes. There was a video out there on Twitter. I believe John Duran posted it on Twitter. MVS basically running a route in drills, and he pulls up in practice, and it sounds like he was added to the injury list. So that's going to definitely be one to keep an eye on this upcoming week against Chicago. I know a lot of people not huge MVS fans right now based on the result of last game, but he is a player that helps his Packers team, and you want him out there against Chicago. And right now, we'll see what happens, but it wasn't a great video. You never want to see a wide receiver pull up that way. Thankfully, I think he was just added as questionable, so not, doubtful or out or anything like that, but it'll definitely be a player worth monitoring on Friday to see if he practices or if he's out on Friday. So we'll see what happens there. The two other players that did not practice on Thursday, Josh Jackson still dealing with a concussion, and then Davon Adams still dealing with the foot injury or ankle or knee or whatever it is, the leg injury. We'll see. It sounds like, Matt LaFleur was confident that Davon Adams was going to be able to play, as well as Corey Linsley. They did say they take it extra cautious with Davon Adams, but hopefully both of those players are able to go. Hopefully Jackson's able to, clear concussion protocol sooner rather than later. But right now, I would say the three question marks that we really want to keep an eye on Friday's practice: MVS, Josh Jackson, and Davon Adams. That's going to do it for me. Thanks so much for joining me on this Friday edition of the Pack-A-Day podcast. Make sure to check out Andrew and Kyle wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.